Welcome back. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent.
That's what I'm talking about. That's my jam right there.
Right here on your hometown station, KHTS. You got to let me finish my intro.
Sorry,
it'll throw me off completely. So today we're talking about mental, emotional, or spiritual growth. Which one is your child in need of? We went over the mental growth and importance in the first segment. So right now we're going to go over the emotional and spiritual growth. I'm going to let you pick. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do the emotional growth.
Yeah, my favorite.
You like that one. So, just as a recap, so for all the mental growth that we were talking about earlier in the first half was a lot has to do with your insecurity. So your fears, your doubts, and your limiting beliefs. When it comes to emotional growth, I want you to think of each one of us as human beings having this emotional tank, sort of like a propane tank that you would use for your barbecuer. And it's filled with residual pain, anger, resentment, frustration that you may have for people in your life, in your past. So, let's open up the possibility you might be angry at a father who, wronged you or disappointed you or maybe even walked out on the family, or you have some, resentment towards somebody who took advantage of your kindness or did something to you that, just devastated you. So we can get stuck emotionally with pain that's still kind of, harboring within us contextually. And if you don't learn how, or someone doesn't give you the opportunity to pop that emotional tank open and let all of that residual energy out and run its course, then it's still bottled up in you. And it comes out at certain times when you least expect it. It affects your thoughts. It affects your mood, your emotion. And a lot of times kids that have, their emotional tank so full or overflowing or stuffed, that's the part of them that they don't feel adequate. They don't feel normal. They don't feel, when people say, I don't feel good in my own skin, or they have anxiety, or they have stress, or they're depressed, it's because they have a lot of emotional baggage that's still stuck within them. And then all it takes is for a 16-year-old to, take a hit of marijuana for the very first time, and he goes, that's what it feels like to feel normal again. And then all of a sudden now you have the possibility of an addiction coming on because they're always chasing that normal feeling. When we are healed and we get rid of all that emotional baggage, there's an emotional high within us already. Our spirits are lit. Our spirits, when we're pure spirit driven and we're clean and we've gotten rid of our past. A lot of times I call it completing your past. Let's complete our past. And people go, what do you mean by that? What does that look like? Well, you got to be open to the possibility. You still have residual emotions from your past that you haven't either fully completed or accepted or surrendered or let go, that could be still creeping around and getting in the way of your full potential.
Yeah, and as you were explaining that whole scenario, I was imagining, and just so everybody knows and you're paying attention, I'm just going to drop some insight on you for your teens. When you were giving that little scenario, I was imagining myself and my friends and my life in junior high. I was imagining in junior high, you go through as a teen so much anxiety and so much transition and so much change, not just with your social life and going to high school and preparing and all that, but your bodies change and all kinds of crazy stuff is going on in junior high, and I don't even want to talk about it right now. But that's like the time where your kids are, I think for me at least, I was emotionally growing and developing in that time, probably the most I ever have in my whole life. I switched from being a kid and almost a baby, elementary school, you're still a baby. Even, junior high, you're still a kid, but all of a sudden people start expecting a lot from you. Your teachers expect you to work like you're in high school, and your parents expect you to have some responsibilities now because you're a teenager, and a lot of stuff gets dropped on you in that time. And if your parents aren't there for you, you're going to go to an outside source. You're going to go to your mentor, your coach, and hopefully those people are good, honest, healthy people, but you're going to go to them. You're going to go to your friends' parents. You're going to go to your friends, which is even worse. Even though friends are a great support, I I don't want to be seeking advice from people my age that have just as much or less experience than me. So, you have to consider, or I invite you to consider, that maybe during that time, your kids need you a lot more than you realize. And what's cool about the whole scenario or the whole process of your kids being in junior high is you've been there before. You've gone through all of that. You just forget. I mean, I already kind of, and that was only a couple of years ago for me. And I already kind of forget how hard it was or how challenging it was. Or, every day I had to wake up and be this new person that people expected me to be because of one easy thing, my age. All of a sudden people started expecting a lot. And so I just wanted to point out that a lot of emotional growth comes from junior high. And I think in those 2 years, I grew so much emotionally that it prepared me for all of the things that life was going to throw me in high school. And then in there, I did some more emotional growth and worked on myself. And I'm still continuing in that process. But I think it all kind of starts coming together in junior high, because as a kid in elementary school, 10 years old, you're still so young and still so innocent, and people don't really expect much of you. They expect you to have fun and be a good kid, and that's all.
Yeah, not too long ago, I was sitting with a mom and her daughter, and her daughter's in high school, and we were just talking about the possibilities of, really working on the insecurities of her daughter. And I was kind of painting this picture of, if your daughter doesn't put that conscious effort into really developing a greater self-esteem and doesn't really go through the process of making amends or forgiving or forgetting or letting go of some of the emotional baggage that she's carrying, what will happen is there will be a certain hole inside of her, like an insecurity within her, that will have her start to seek all the jerks in life. And she started tearing up, and she started to kind of share with me that the daughter had already had a really bad relationship with a guy who was treating her bad, and you can tell in her face, and the emotions that were coming up was that the family was that they already gone through that process, and so she had already gotten that scare of what it's like to be a mom and having a beautiful daughter that you see nothing but greatness in her, and expecting her to choose a young boy who treats her like the queen that she is. And that's what you want as a parent. You want someone that your son or daughter is going to choose that's going to treat you like the king or queen that you are. And to see them in unhealthy relationships, you feel lost. You're like, what can I do to help my son or daughter develop that secure and that self-love that they need to be able to be out in the world and navigate relationships successfully. And that's the conscious work that we got to start doing with our kids, is developing that and giving them a safe place of cathartically let go of some of that stuff so that they can heal, such that we can rebuild them back up to be competent and confident young adults to take on the world. So
I'm going to throw the $1 million question at you again. What is it for? So I'm gonna skip the kids' years, because I think emotional stability and growth, like I said, comes when you're a little bit older, but doesn't mean that there's nothing going on when you're younger. But I think it's really, really important as soon as you start turning 13, 14, 15, what is it that parents can do, model example, to teach their kids how to be strong emotionally?
That's a great question. I think first of all, you as a parent have to learn how to show your emotions. You have to model it. You have to, when something's bothering you and your son or daughter says, "Are you okay, Mom?" or "You're right, Dad," instead of saying, "Yeah, everything's great," you got to learn how to be emotionally honest and say, "No, I'm a little sad today." And you got to learn how to reveal some of that and trust your kids that they have the capacity to be able to be compassionate for you, and that they're not going to use that against you. And you got to learn how to share. If you want your kids to share with you and let go of some of that stuff and have an outlet to talk that stuff out, you have to be modeling it yourself. You got to be showing them what it looks like to have an open, honest conversation with someone. And if you're not, and you're just expecting them to do it, but you've never done it, you're just basically co-creating your own image. You're creating your own little mini-me that's, closed and shut down and only shares a few things. And then you're frustrated because, Melissa won't open up and share, or little Tommy doesn't let you in. Well, they're probably mirroring you. So for one, it's you have to teach them what it's like to open up and share your frustrations or your sadness or your disappointments. You gotta open up this safe space in your home. Like maybe it's your living room, or maybe it's the little coffee room that you've created, or you gotta create a safe space that's designed or a symbol for when we come in here. We're just gonna open ourselves up and reveal such that we can support each other. And you basically, as a parent, you got to be a therapist. And I've always said this. I think every parent is their child's best therapist. However, most parents don't believe that they have enough within them to do the therapy with their kids, so they go and seek therapy outside of the home, rather than saying, no, how do I figure out how to be that therapeutic space for my kids to flush some of that stuff out, and trust that in my heart that I can heal my own kids just by giving them an outlet. A lot of times we don't have to have the answers for our kids. In fact, most of the time, 99.9% of the times, I don't have answers for anybody. But what I've done is developed an ability about me to create a safe space for you to share some of that stuff out loud. And then in that sharing, you come up with your own answers. You find your own solutions to your own problems. That's what makes a great coach or a mentor or a therapist, is creating a safe space and asking the right questions to let them kind of get that out.
What's funny is when I watch TV shows, and there's always the parent that's kind of like the kid, whoever the kid in the show's guide, they always go to their parents with their issue, and the parent sits there and goes, oh, well, what do you think about that? And, they kind of do like their whole thing, and the parent is this always portrayed as this almighty, powerful parent that, never makes a mistake. They're always just depicted as this really great parent. And in that, the parent is always depicting a coaching style parenting, where they're like the little therapist for the kid, and they're not even saying anything, and the kid runs away like, oh my God, I got it, thanks mom, and runs away. And the mom's sitting there like, oh, okay. Like she didn't do anything. So it's kind of funny that this idea is kind of being taught to us through TV, because I can think of 100 examples right now just of the same scene over and over again in different shows or movies, and it's being taught to us, and we're not seeing it, or we're not, grasping onto it and seeing any value in that specific lesson.
Well, we're not grasping it because we're not conscious, and we're not in that moment present, kind of looking at a sitcom to teach us. But technically, if we're really present and in the moment and aware consciously, our lessons are all around us. They're from the next door neighbor, watching them interact with each other, or a football coach to the kid and the way they're talking. If we're really an observer of life and a student of life, we can be learning from everything and everybody. But the greatest way to really help your kids heal and develop emotionally is to ask them open-ended questions like, how does that make you feel? Right? It's a powerful question. And then, a lot of times the kids will give an answer like, I don't know, or they go, and then the parent just kind of gives up like, oh, I've tried that before, rather than getting creative with the question. Well, is not a feeling, son. So like, do you feel sad? Do you feel annoyed? Do you feel angry? I guess I feel angry. Or what part angry gets you angry about what happened? Well, I guess it's when my coach told me that I'm not good enough. Okay, so your job is to figure out how to be creative with your questions. It's not about having the answers. It's about being a great questionist and figuring out how to ask the right questions, leading your son or daughter down a path to have an epiphany or have an aha moment that they realize for themselves. It's not about you being their guru and coming up with all their life lessons. It's about you being a facilitator, where you facilitate a process for them to come up with their own answers.
And just from my own experience or point of view as a young adult, and when I was a teen, before parents jump into being the question master, you have to learn how to listen first, or it's for us, I don't want to say you have to. For us, what we would like to see is you listening first. Just listen to what we're saying, because a lot of the time I know that in the past I would tell a story or tell, my mom or dad what's going on, and instead of me feeling like they were paying attention to me, I felt like their wheels were turning in their own head. How am I going to fix this? If they were even listening at all,
That's right.
they would know.
That's right. A lot of, and I'm guilty of that. A lot of times is we love you so much that we want to save you from pain. We want to give you an answer, and that's not extraordinary parenting. It's good parenting, average parenting. It's parenting, just on a basic level. However, if you want to develop competent, confident, assured kids, leaders, then what you do is you have to really be mindful of that and either catch yourself and instead of giving an answer, throw out a question. And then you got to get really good at the questions until the point where, the interaction runs its course and they go, you know what, Dad, thanks for, listening to me. I appreciate you. And then a day or two later, when you follow up and go, hey, how'd that turn out? And you go, oh, I figured it out. Yes. It's like if you can figure out how to get your kids to come up with their own answers and solutions, you're now starting to enter extraordinary parenting.
We have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we're talking about mental, emotional, or spiritual growth. Which one is your child in need of? So earlier in the segment, we went over the mental and emotional growth and kind of gave some little, what my dad would say, golden nuggets for how to get your kids there. We even went over the different ages and what that might look like. So right now, before we have to leave for the day, we're going to go over spiritual growth. So I want to first start off with what being spiritual, that spiritual side looks like.
For me, spirituality is so big. It's so huge. You can't really define it. A lot of people, they say, it's about God and going to church and following God's ways and all that kind of stuff. And I agree. However, for me, spirituality is really about, tapping in and reconnecting to the spirit within each one of us. There's a God spirit or energy inside of each one of us, and it's tapping into that. And for me, when you're out of sync of your own spirit within yourself, you're living and you're choosing out of fear. You're ego-based, and so ego is all driven from fear. So a lot of your choices, your anxiety and your sadness and all that comes from being operating out of fear. So for me, it's about shifting all that fear and start living your life out of love. Love is the energy of trust. Love is the energy of giving, of sharing, of opening up, letting things go. Fear is the energy that holds on to, that it's afraid of, that it rankles, it smothers. And so when you learn how to live your life from love, you're more aligned with your spirit. Your spirit has a voice it's always communicating to you. It's like this, it feels like it's an intuition or a gut feeling. And the question is am I living my life in tune with that gut feeling or that intuition? And do I choose from that place more often? Or do I mostly choose from up here, which is my ego and fear-based kind of, thoughts and choices?
One thing that I've found, for me at least, to be true is that I don't normally make my decisions from that gut feeling or because it's uncertain. That even though that, stumbling of whatever is going on, like in my stomach, and I feel nervous and I have anxiety about it, I hardly make decisions from that place because it's so scary or it's so unknown that my brain is telling me, oh, do this. And I'm cool about it. I'm nice. I'm easygoing. I'm a relaxed kind of guy. Pick me. And because it's so comfortable and it's so easy to me, I'm like, why am I going to pick the more complicated one?
Yeah, because you're so used to living from here. You've been living from here for, 12, 13 years. So to be able to practice choosing from here is taboo. It's uncomfortable. There's no surety in it. Even though up here there's no surety either. Up here there's no guarantees, but for whatever reason we feel safe up here because it's the one. It's like I'm preparing myself for in case I get rejected. I'm preparing myself in case someone says no or I can't do it. I'm already preparing, which is all fear-based, right? It's all coming from like setting myself up to not win. It's almost like up here I'm playing not to lose, not to lose. From here you're choosing from playing to win. Like, let it go. Who cares? It's not that important. Surrender. There's more where that comes from. The world is abundant. From here, it's so effortless. It's so flawless. And our job in life, in our journey, is to figure out where do I want to be living from? Is it from fear or from love? And the choosing to live from love is your spirit-driven life, is you connected and aligned with your spirit. And you start to realize, you start to make higher choices from that place. You start to make choices that are just freeing. They feel right. They take no effort. It takes trust. It takes a vulnerability.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking for. Whatever takes no effort. Because I'm not used to, fighting with myself and that, sticky feeling of what am I supposed to do? I picked the easiest one.
Yeah. And doing living your life from your spirit, it requires for you to dig down deep.
I'm rolling my eyes. If you're not on Facebook Live, I'm rolling my eyes. And so the $1 million question again, here it is. What do we got to do as parents to get our kids to even focus on that spiritual growth or start being in tune with ourselves? Again,
practice it and model it. You're it. And I know this is what most parents hate the most, because I was there too when I was in my early 20s. I just kind of didn't want to change my life so that my kids lived a better life. It was almost like, I don't know what it was. It was that part of me was like, why do I have to change my life so that, but it's the way it works. You got to model it. You can't be saying, hey, don't smoke cigarettes, and you're in the back porch, puffing away. You got to model it for them. Your job as a parent is to show your kids how to live an extraordinary life. And if you're not, you're showing them how to live the life that you've accustomed to or you've settled to.
Well, I also think there's a lot of people who, and this is not wrong or anything, it's just the way we are sometimes. There's a lot of people who, one, like you said, will tell you not to do something even though they're doing it. And there's others who will not mind that you're doing it because they turned out all right or they're okay. And I feel, at least for me, when I get older and I start having kids, I don't want to give my kids the same life as me. Not that it wasn't great. I just want to give them better.
Good.
And
that's
obviously, right? That's a common thing that parents say.
No, that's what extraordinary parenting for me is all about. Is every parent says to themselves, if I can help you create a better life for yourself than I did, I've done my job. And I think I speak for 80% of the parents that's what they align behind. If I could help you, get the education I didn't have, or learn the things I didn't learn, and love yourself more than I love myself, and all that. That's awesome. However, you got to do a little bit of work for them to kind of follow your lead, because you can't be doing no work and expecting them to be doing that. And some kids will do it. You'll get the exception to the rule. You can be just a horrible, parent, and all of a sudden have just a kid that just look and go, I'm never going to be nothing like you. And then they'll be the opposite. That does happen too. However, for most people, we got to model that so that we teach our kids how to follow in our lead.
Yeah, and I think parents, for the most part, they do a really good job of giving their kids a better life, and their kids end up being just a tad bit better, which is good. That's great. Absolutely. So even when you're not doing the most at parenting, even when you're doing the bare minimum, I think naturally your kids are going to be just a little bit better than you because of that natural drive to, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. Yeah. But what's really awesome and really amazing to see is the parents who are making that conscious effort and are listening to our shows and are putting these things.
If you're listening to the show, it tells me a lot about your commitment to your kids and you wanting to improve yourself and your family. It says you're a courageous champion, and that gives me goosebumps. And I want to thank you for trusting us and tuning in.
Thank you. That's all the time that we have for today. We will see you next week as we go over Distinction 1, the Be, Do, Have habit in my dad's book, The Inspirational Parent. We'll see you next week, Friday from 12 to 1, right here on your hometown station, KHTS.